Welcome everyone to another Horus Heresy Kitbash, or shall I say more of a convert tonight. So I'm going to convert this model here, which is from the Horus Heresy Betrayal at Calf box originally, but now you can buy it separately. And I've bought a copy of this guy off a friend of mine, Martin. If you're watching, thank you very much. I already have a model painted for my World Eaters army. I have a spare one for my Alpha Legion army, and now I want to convert one for my Alpha Legion army, if that makes sense. So I've got him as a captain, and now my third one is going to be an Apothecary. So the Apothecary, the correct term is the Primus Medicae, who's in Terminator armour. Will be converted mainly from this guy with a little bit of chopping and changing. So this is the model, what it should be like. This is him on sprue. Look at that. So that came from the Conquest magazine, which is the 40k magazine that came out a few years ago. So it's just blue, that's the only difference I can see. And I convert him with a few, I feel really nasty now, Dark Angels bits. Yes, Dark Angels apparently are loyal still. And that's the flashlight on the top so they can see what they're doing. And a few of the Apothecary style pouches. Now I do have an Apothecary style helmet for this guy, but I don't want to use the Apothecary style helmet. Yes, he would look different from the other two models that I already have painted, but he would look different from the other two models because he would have a different head. But Alpha Legion, a lot of their troops have bald heads and they all look rather similar. So I'm going to stick with that theme, and the only thing I'm going to convert is basically lopping the arms off and swapping the arms over, changing the head position and sticking some pouches on. So it's not much of a kit bash, it's more of a conversion, like I said. So the bits I'm going to lop off, going back to the arms, are this one here, replacing it obviously with the Apothecary tools and the other weapon. So the combi weapon for the Apothecary can be replaced with multiple different weapons. Me personally, got a thing for Volkites, and Volkites are only 2 points. So I mentioned in my previous video when I armed my regular Horus Heresy Apothecary with a Volkite. There he is there, all primed up, ready to go. And that was a converted Primus weapon. So Primus Apothecary pistol there. So you could give him a combi bolter, you could give him a Bane Strike combi bolter, which are free. You can give him the Magna combi bolter, and you can give him the Minor combi weapon as well. So you could leave him indeed with this weapon, which is fine. It's 10 points. It's not so bad. Not so bad. But Volkite, I think, for 2 points, is pretty good. Plus, if I don't lop this guy's arm off, he's going to look pretty much the same, which is fine. So I'm giving you guys options. If you want to keep this weapon, it is legal. It is legit. You could even cut off the loin piece here and replace it with just a cloth, which I still might do actually, to be fair. And you could even cut the cape off. Leaving the cape on kind of makes him look a bit special, not just a generic dude. So I will cut a few little bits off on the way, and this is the model I'm going to show you at the end to say this is the original sculpt, and I'll show you the one that we will do at the end of this and show you what you can make. Okay. So I'm going to start with cutting the actual pieces out off the sprue. So rather than converting straight on the sprue, I have quite a sharp knife using cutting mat cutting away from myself. Anytime I feel like I'm putting too much pressure in, I will use the clips, but generally I don't use clips to cut models off a sprue. It's just personal taste. So I'm going to cut them all off, put them to one side. Later on I will customize them when they're off. And next we're going to get rid of any mold lines or any bits of sprues still remaining on the model, so just very carefully cleaning the model up. It's always nice to go over twice just to make sure you haven't left any bits on there. Just clean up any tiny little bits. Okay, so once you clean off all the mold lines, me personally, I always like the head facing the right direction of the weapon or in a cinematic way. So I'm going to cut the head off. That sounds great, right? Cut the head off. And this is the point where you could swap it out if you wanted to. And remember, you could always use the spare heads from the Cataphracti set. Like these guys anyway, they always look cool. So you get loads of spare bits, like the spare guns. That's in the Age of Darkness box and in the Betrayal of Calf box. So you can make arms up like this. So if you want to just have a standard combi bolter, you could do, rather than that plasma, rather than that melter. So that's an easy transition there, not a problem. And also cut the arm off. So as neat as I can to the torso itself. Just like so. Nice and flush. So on the Apothecary arm, I like to keep as much of the tubing as I can. So I'm going to cut along there and along there. And then when it comes to the blue arm, it's easy when it's colour coordinated, right? I'm going to try to keep as much of the tassely, leathery pieces as possible. So I'm going to cut down at that angle, followed by that angle, because I still need to keep the elbow. So when you cut it at the elbow, it should look a little something like that. So you can still see the tassels. And it's about the right angle as well of the previous pose. So the most tricky bit is the cabling. So if you want to keep the cable, you can see I have broke it accidentally there, which I will tidy up once the glue sets. If you want to keep the cabling, yes, it looks a bit more realistic, it looks a bit cooler. When you stick this panel on here, there is a little cable you just have to trim and just slightly bend to meet that cable there. You don't have to do it, but like I said, it does look slightly more realistic than just having a drill with no cabling. And because I like to make things difficult for myself, I've used a Alpha Legion own top arm because I wanted the scales. So I've glued that in to match. A little bit of green stuff is your friend there. But of course, like I said, there are other arms that would more easily fitted in there from the regular Cataphracti Terminator kit. So when that's dry, I'm going to glue my Volkite in. You can see my head is facing a different direction and he's leaning more towards the Apothecary tool. And then when that's dry, I will stick the top part on, modifying the spotlight as I do and sticking that in place there. So with the curved lamps, you need to straighten out just very, very slightly. So you can either shim a little bit off there and shim a little bit off there, or use a bit of sandpaper, something like that. Just be a bit careful not to take too much off. So a little bit at a time, just shave a little bit off there. And you can see I've been to work today since the last clip because my hands are very, very mucky. The joys of being a mechanic, you never get all the oil out. So that's a little bit straighter, you can see that straighter now. Let's see what it looks like. That is better. So just neaten that up a little bit with a bit of wet and dry sandpaper. And glue it to the top like so. Okay, and then you need to stick him on a 40mm base and customize it to your pleasure. So I'm making a bit of a wastelandy kind of theme base with my Alpha Legion. So just put a little bit of mud texture on the base, a little bit of cork underneath that, and a very old Space Marine shoulder pad I've had for some time. Cut it a little bit at an angle, shoved it in there. I'm just going to blend it in with the base with a little bit more sandy texture and paint it all in. And so you can just about see the symbol on the shoulder pad. I don't know what Legion to paint it up as. I don't want to be Legionist because I have had bits of dead Ultramarine so far on my stuff, bits of dead Imperial Fists. Now I wasn't going to stick any of the vials or pouches on the hip of this guy because it comes with two, but I did end up sticking one on because actually it does look pretty cool. Breaks it up a little bit, and I do still want to make it slightly different from this guy, so not having one there made a bit of a difference. It does come with two, the Dark Angels pack, so I could have stuck another one there, but I just thought it looked a bit busy with the cables and everything. And as much as I do like to put loads of pouches on my guys, sometimes too much is too much, you know, really, really is. So yeah, pretty happy with this guy. It looks completely different. You can't believe it is the same model, even though it's got the same hunch pose. It's got the same, obviously, leg stance and everything. The fact that you just turn the head and drop the arm effectively, so this arm here isn't in the raised position like that one, and the head is looking in a different direction, really does make look that the model is completely different. You know, he looks like he's leaning more forward and doing a sideways stance. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm happy with this. Like I said, it's not so much of a kit bash as more of a custom job. I mean, I cut an arm off at the shoulder. I cut the arm off at the elbow. I've cut the head off and just repositioned it. And I've stuck on the bits accordingly. Not much has changed really. I mean, you can cut the cape off if you wanted to. It's quite easy to do off of the sprue. You could even make that more of a cloth piece rather than the strips, which I think it looks more like a butcher than an apothecary. But that's just personal taste. If you want to do that, brilliant. And if you can see on the one I did a few weeks ago, the regular Horus Heresy Marine, that loincloth there didn't look too bad. I didn't want to do strips on that guy. But yeah, it's own personal preference. So if you've got this model, chances are you probably have the Cataphracti sprue. Loads of stuff on there to choose from. So this model can be equipped with lightning claws. It can be equipped with a power sword, which I believe is free actually, which is a bit of a shock. Power swords aren't bad in this edition if you roll high enough. If not, they're not massively strong. It's not an expensive model, but considering I have a 10-man Terminator unit that is incredibly expensive, I thought adding this guy into that unit gives him some survivability. So as he stands right here, right now, he is 132 points, which yes, may seem a little expensive, but going into a Cataphracti unit with lightning claws, that's 435 points, giving them a 5-up shrug, some survivability, I think is pretty good. So yeah, what you need to do is have a Centurion Califracti, and then you can upgrade him to the Primus Medicae for 45 points, and then you can add your Volkite Charger like I did, or the Power Sword. It's totally up to you. So the Power Sword, like I said, isn't amazing unless you roll those 6s and then it's rending. But it's a free weapon, so why not, eh? You might get some 6s in, unless you're me. But no, lovely model, great rules. He may be a little bit expensive, but with that 2-up armour, you know, he is Califracti after all, so he is fairly survivable. He's got a few wounds to him. Really like the rules, want to try him out. So, hopefully, I'm going to spray this guy up, prime it, see if there's any bits that might need a tiny little bit of green stuff here or there, and then start spraying them up for my Alpha Legion. Hence, the Alpha Legion Scaly Arm. But it's totally up to you. Like I said, from that kit, from the Califracti Terminator kit, you have the standard arms like so. You can easily glue into place. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys fancy having a pop yourself and making your own conversion. I would really, really like to see your work. So please put it up on the House of Chaos community page, on our Facebook page. That'd be brilliant. Love to see them. Or any other heresy projects that you're getting on with. Always enjoy looking at other people's projects. Really gets me inspired. But yeah, sadly, I haven't seen the Forge World version of this guy forever and a day. If I ever see one, I will buy one. But it's rare as hen's teeth. That's why I've made this guy. So hopefully, you guys can make your own. If you ever see the Forge World one on eBay, it's probably crazy amounts of money. So this is going to be a damn sight cheaper. Okay, stay safe everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.